And then when Sora came out and it was first announced and you saw these puppies playing in the snow with like looking photoreal, and you hardly could tell that it was like computer generated. It was frightening to me because I went on a journey which already lasted to this point, I would say like about 10 years. On a journey where I said to myself, I want to be a professional filmmaker, and the specific profession which lets me stand out, besides all the other people who just could take a camera inside their hand and pretend to be a filmmaker, was I can do visual effects myself. But then the Sora tool came out and I thought, okay, fuck. Now
I lose my
everybody,
competitive advantage. Yeah.
now everybody can do visual effects again.
Hi, Arne.
Hi, Julian.
How you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm doing well, I think.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you accepted my offer for this interview, for this conversation, I would say, because I think what you're going through and the way you work, your curiosity, your craft, your expertise is really key in those moments that we're going to cover today. So, but before we start, just out of the blue, tell us a little bit, who's Arne?
I would say I consider myself a filmmaker by heart. So my journey to become a filmmaker, I think it's a process led through like in the very beginning doing like band photography, band videography, then over commercial VFX, movie VFX. We worked together on Star Wars, for example, in the HR, and me as layout artist. Yeah, through the VFX, I thought it would be like, that's the reason I chose VFX when I started my journey to become a filmmaker, was because I was searching for something with a scale, with a countable value. You really can see, oh, okay, this is something somebody has to learn before he starts shooting something or whatever. So because before when I did my camera work as a band videographer, for example, I always had the feeling that I have to prove myself, like that I'm having the cinematic eye, because everybody can take a camera into his hand. It doesn't mean that everybody is able to be like a cinematographer, but the competition is like quite big there because there are a lot of people taking cameras in their hands, and not everybody is capable of seeing what is quality work with this camera and what's just like you could use your phone camera or whatever. And yeah, that's why I chose the path of VFX, because there's something you have to have a profound knowledge of before you can create, for example, 3D animation. Yeah.
You're mastering almost the whole pipeline of how to make a movie by mastering the tool themselves. And I guess layout is, and 3D generally make a lot of sense in that regard. So basically, if you want to, you could be able to do your own movie without the need of a giant team around. It could start only with you, the story, the blocking, basically, because I think what I really like with the way of your being is that you're creative in a way that I don't think you think of the tool first. For my perception of you first think about the story and then, let's work on those tools, let's use that. And eventually this one, am I right? Or
yeah, definitely. When I have an idea in my mind, first of all, I don't think of how do I achieve it, but just like start from scratch, and whatever lies ahead, I just find a solution at some point to make it happen. And until this point, it worked pretty well. I mean, on the one hand, I did the stuff, I told you, like the layout stuff for big studios. But on the other hand, I was selling, for example, for documentaries, I was selling the whole package of 3D, like space stations flying in space. And also I sold a couple of short mini documentaries completely produced from scratch till the very end. So that's exactly what you said there, that's in this nature of like, what do I want to have? What do I want to do? And then I just always am in the lookout of which tool is the quickest one for me to achieve this, the fastest one, so I can be like efficient in my work.
Yeah, and I guess that would give you that kind of curiosity and kind of being unafraid of trying out new tools, because for artists, it could be just learning a new software. Could feel like I don't want to start again there, or it's like I'm really comfy here. I'm doing my stuff. I'm an employee, but you're really like to the lookout. And I guess that's the whole point of this conversation. Also, is like I guess we're gonna start with AI, and then we're gonna look at how this could involve basically your research to your current project, because you have an exciting project being cooked at the moment. We want to hear about it. But I guess the first step, and to wrap up a little bit about your work, I think talking about AI is a good starting point, because I think when you saw Sora result for the first time, you were quite a bit discouraged. Frightened.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess this podcast is really about how to get back on the horse. We all were shaken by this result that we all doomed. But because of the way you are, you quickly get back on the horse, say this way, and you start to play with it. And you have a whole video about Comfy UI for everybody that is interested. And I'll put that on the screen while we talk a little bit, that explain in detail what you can do with it. So I don't think we need to go too deep into that, but maybe more into the philosophy of the tool, of the technology, and how you reacted to it, and the reaction chain since Sora is really interesting to me.
Yeah. The reason why also I started with telling you that I thought that I want to have like a knowledge about a certain topic, which would let me stand out. And that's why I started the thing with the VFX, with the 3D animation, with like the whole spectrum around visual effects. And then when Sora came out, it was first announced, and you saw these puppies playing in the snow with like looking photoreal, and you hardly could tell that it was like computer generated. It was frightening to me, because I went on a journey which already lasted to this point, I would say like about 10 years. On a journey where I said to myself, I want to be a professional filmmaker, and the specific profession which lets me stand out, besides all the other people who just could take a camera inside their hand and pretend to be a filmmaker, was I can do visual effects myself. But then the Sora tool came out, and I thought, okay, fuck. Now everybody,
my competitive advantage.
Now everybody can do visual effects again, and it was like, again I stood at the same point where I was standing when I thought everybody can buy a camera and pretend to be a filmmaker, and this was discouraging very much to me, and I felt, for myself, I felt like as falling into a deep hole because I didn't know. Like where this all will lead to. And it didn't feel good first, but then we talked as well. And and then you helped me also to focus back on what really matters to me. And this never was like being like the best in a tool, or being a super great simulation artist or a great layout artist. But what was important to me was using these tools to achieve my goal to create movies at some point. And the best thing would be like, then it helped me to just like take a deep breath and just get into the matter of these AI generated imagery, like on a deeper level than what you see on the surface, like with Midjourney, like these online services, these cloud-based services. And then I thought, when it's something which you're afraid of, it's always good to just get to the root of it, to understand what you're afraid of, because maybe then you will learn that there's nothing really to be too much afraid of at this point then.
Because that's what I liked with our conversation, is like my contribution to you, I guess, was, yes, it's scary in a way, because it's so good that it's scary. But I guess the refocus was really about, yes, but you're a senior artist, you know your tool. So focus on that and how you can use those tools to your advantage. And what you provide me as a new perspective is also, AI can be as good as could be. At the end of it, if it doesn't produce a story for human being, nobody cares. So it's all about how you use AI to tell the story, and then that's what you presented with Comfy UI, is basically you use AI, you break down to granular level so you can control precisely that tool, which is amazing. But by itself, if you put a prompt, you cannot create a compelling story yet, which is coherent, right? So it's better to really, it's almost like getting the best of both universe, the universe where everything is manual, but take a lot of time, a lot of people, and everything is automatic, but pretty random and not consistent and not able to do really a good looking story of it, as much as there are some examples that are pretty good. But what you show and demonstrate with the Comfy UI video, which was really a ball of fresh air, is like, hey, just take the part which is really the automatic part and use it in your manual workflow.
Yeah, by learning the Comfy UI tool, it also, like, first of all, you're completely right. It's not that I think now I want AI generate my movies or something, but I still want to use my own digital hands to create what I want to show the people. But I learned that everything around this AI generated imagery offers us a lot of tools and possibilities to make our work easier as 3D artists, but not in a way of it would steal our jobs, but more it's like the tool, like for example, we use Maya or Houdini or Blender, and the AI is able to enhance how we work with those tools. But I don't think that the AI will somewhere in the near future of 5 to 10 years replace those tools, because it's just a thought I have now. I think in the beginning, for example, of 3D animation, the animation was very rudimentary. Now we have like total control with graph editor and stuff like that. But I think in the beginning, getting this control over an animation was way harder than it's today, for example. And when you watch these making-ofs of Toy Story 1, for example, they always had just like the most rudimentary visualization of what they are working on, like in a wireframe mode and like totally unshaded. And with this vision, they had to create the whole movie, which was looking great in the end. But it was way harder to create Toy Story 1 back then for them than it would be to create something similar, just visually wise, today for any artist on one machine, for example.
That's a really good parallel, because you had to be really ingenious in the way you use a computer to be able to generate it. I guess the topic itself of Toy Story was because of the limitation of the machine, right? It was toys, so it doesn't look like humans, and it's fine if it doesn't look like that. I think it's those kind of tricks also that you want to use with AI to make it look real in a way. So that's, I guess, where experience, creativity is coming as the most important thing, because no matter the tool, even in 10 years with the next, I don't know, ChatGPT 10,000, it's the way people are going to use the tool that's going to matter more than the tool itself. The tool is going to be just like a new cheese for creative minds, like, or a new sugar, let's say. And that, I think you're exactly in that mindset. So that's really what I appreciate a lot with you, and what I wanted to talk to you and for you to share that to a wider audience, because I think a lot of artists, they don't get back on track that fast enough, and they're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bill anymore. And, it relates a little bit to Simon Sinek, the finite mindset and the infinite mindset. And I think you're completely in the infinite mindset, meaning it's never done. It's always about the quest of how can we do it with what we have now. Because I just remember, I'm just going straight to it, but you have that video with the red car that was going to the street, and the video was looking really cool. But what blew my mind is that you mentioned under the video or next to it that you actually capture the building with your cell phone or something, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Just to close this, those people back then, when they did Toy Story, they had to have, I have a lot of passion for what I'm doing and for 3D and everything, but I can't imagine that with this limited tool set they had back then, I don't think that I would have been able to develop that passion. I already spoiled by the tools which were out when I started with 3D. And that's the whole thing, because we are already at a point where using 3D programs, I don't see that it can get any easier. I think it's very easy to get into 3D programs anyway. So it's not that AI is standing next to it and you think, oh, this is way more easy than using a 3D program, because in the end, like when I want to place my camera somewhere, for example, there is no easier way to take WASD and my mouse and position the camera like in a video game where I want to have it. So the AI is just the next step. As for example, I have a GPU accelerated renderer, so I see right away how the rendering will look like. This wasn't possible 10 years ago. You still had the hardware shaded rendering and you could test render an image, for example.
Line by line.
Yeah, exactly. And then you would have waited and okay. And then you can replace the light. For example, putting your lights in your scene is way easier than it was 20 years ago. Still also way easier than it was 10 years ago, and then it was 5 years ago. It gets easier and easier. So now you have real-time rendered scenes. I mean, it's maybe noisy or something, but you already see exactly what you're doing in real time. This is also super powerful. And coming back to the thing with the scanning, this is the same thing. Before this photogrammetry stuff, it started to become public.
So it was pretty heavy at the time. I remember you waited, 3-4 hours in order to get something that looked approximately okay.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have iPhones there, all the newer ones have this little accessory down here, like this black, not those free cameras, but this black dot here. And it's the LiDAR scan. They're also having it on the front, even in a more higher resolution to scan your face. This is how you unlock your phone. That's why it has it, actually. Yeah,
Face ID.
Yeah, for the Face ID, exactly. With this LiDAR, you can just... Of course, you don't need this much processing power because your phone doesn't have to understand how the pictures you took are in physical space to each other, because you have an actual LiDAR, which is telling the phone exactly where what is. So you can capture whatever seems appealing to you on the go and make... For example, for the car scene, I just went around my hometown and scanned some facades of the houses. And I think this is always about filmmaking, whatever you want to do, like live action movies or 3D animated movies, it's always to look at your resources and how much is there to be done. For example, when you are doing a live shoot and you want to, having a box fight or something, and you're filming the box fight, but you don't have too many prop characters in the cheering and whatever. You can just place them. First you shoot it and you place all of them like in front of the camera behind the boxes, and then whatever is behind the camera is a total mess. It's always just what the camera sees, because nobody cares what the camera don't see. And I think that's the same thing with, for example, VFX, because when you have a hero object, of course you have to be like very detailed, and or a hero character, when it's a 3D character, you want to have it like very precise and every wrinkle has to be on point. It would be just too much if it's a character you see, you never see in front of the camera, but very far away always, like like just a camera, a person who's walking by, he doesn't even have to have a face rig. This would be just without any reason, you would throw out money out of the window if you create a face rig for this person, for example.
Completely overkill.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same thing with these 3D scans. It's not that this 3D scan is a perfect 3D scan I could use for a hero object, but if I'm taking a car and make it drift around a corner, and I know already that the facade back there will be blurred by motion blur anyway, then it's enough. And if it's not enough, I still could try it out, and I think, okay, my eye isn't convinced, okay, I have to put more love into it. I think it's always like, how much is enough to convince my eye? So it's enough. Yeah.
It's really about optimizing what you want to achieve with what you have as a tool, and to make it as much as efficient as possible and smart. Because I think creativity is not only like in the final product you produce, but how you connect the tool between them. Because that's something I think you really shine in. And speaking of which, just wanted to hear a little bit about your current project you're working on, because you mentioned the math TV show that I think going to be really cool.
Yeah, so right now I'm working on a math TV show for kids, like children between 9 and 12, like that would be the target group. I'm doing it with my wife. It comes in handy as she's like a very creative person, but she's also a mathematician.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and also she has a good face for the camera, because we also will use her as, in Germany you would say moderator, but I don't know, is it moderator?
Yeah, like a speaker or moderator.
Yeah.
You just seduce her because you had the project in mind already, right?
Yeah.
She was the perfect fit.
I all laid it out that way. So
it was
she
all
studies math. Exactly. But there's also something I could show you on my screen. Those are shots of this math, just scrubbing through. It's still in a layout phase. I'm trying out
Which
things.
software you are in? Just for the noobs in CG like me.
In this case, I'm using Blender. As actually, when I'm working on solo projects, Blender is my go-to software because it has a whole VFX pipeline in one program. So I can, for the people who know a bit more about VFX, it's maybe interesting to say, I even can, for example, comp right in my viewport. Even before the image is rendered, I already can comp it in the viewport. So I can skip a lot of steps. I have all the necessary tools to make my work as efficient as possible, in my opinion. And also, like, I have a real-time rendering. This is almost rendering in real time. At least I see how the scene will look like. And as it's a mathematician show, the idea is that we are in a textbook. You see there are airplanes out of paper, and you can see like some formulas written on it and parts and
student textbook before filled up.
And we love math in this one. And what I could show you, for example, here, what I was playing around regarding, for example, how can AI improve my work here? Just real quick, what is this about in this show? She will be the speaker of the show, and we will have this monitor, this old CRT monitor, who is her AI sidekick. And the dynamic will be that she loves mathematics and she loves imagining what you can do with mathematics. We will take the kids on a journey basically through the universe to make them wonder. And that's also her. She has the ability to wonder. She, for example, first the spoiler, like the pilot episode, there is a concept. It's called Hilbert's Hotel. And there was a mathematician, he was named Hilbert, and he has this image of Hilbert's Hotel, and he used it to show infinity, basically, like how we can imagine infinity and how infinity is compared to infinity. And in this episode, she booked a room for her TV and herself in Hilbert's Hotel. She booked the room 70 trillion because she thinks this is already such a high number. This must be near to the end anyway. So she wants to find the highest number in this episode. And then there is the AI who is very structured in his thinking. And the AI doesn't agree. The AI says there is no highest number. That's the whole thing about infinity. But she wants still to see with her own eyes. So her character is like humanity with curiosity and this empirical thinking of I want to see it with my own eyes. And the AI is more like the logical, very
neutral and
exactly. So this is the dynamic in this whole thing.
And so the young audience can refer to the human character to say, actually I would have that question and I would like to know.
Yeah, exactly.
For them to follow along. Yeah, okay, got it.
That's the idea. And
it's already visually playful. And the fact that you basically produce the show in your computer.
Yeah, totally. So I have built a little green screen studio so we can shoot it there. I can use for the whole sets. This is just the studio, and I'm still not that happy with the design and everything of how this studio will look like. But this is in the concept of the show we are working on. This is where she will always come back to, and where every show starts. But then afterwards they go on to a journey, like in this one, for example, to Hilbert's hotel. But the whole art style still stay in this papery style. So Hilbert's hotel is again a hotel made out of textbooks, and it will always be wherever. When they're in the Himalaya, it also will be out of textbooks and so on. That's our idea of a unique style. Yeah.
Got it. And how many episodes do you plan to do approximately?
For now, we are planning on creating the pilot episode.
Yeah.
And the whole peripheral rule. So taking out of the pilot episode, having, for example, 5 9 by so phone format shorts for YouTube, so we can sell it.
Yeah.
Because this is not sold yet. We are still on search for somebody who buys the show.
Here we go.
And the concept.
Here we go. You're presenting it.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to cover not just the main TV show, but also like the peripherals. Also her AI sidekick, just for the presentation and for selling it, we will create a little website. You can connect with your phone, so you have your little ChatGPT AI sidekick on your phone. It would speak to you like the AI sidekick speaks there.
Finally, a way for my son to use the cell phone in a, useful way.
Yeah.
Learning math. Thank you, Arne.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the goal there. And the use of AI, for example, there for us, I have 2 things I did here with AI, for example. One of them I will use for the show. The other one I won't, because I tested it out and I consider it not enough at this point in time. So
tell us a bit more about that.
So you see, for example, she is now lit, and you see I'm moving the light from, I think you can tell without knowing where the light is, where the light source is at this point, and where the light source is at this point.
Yeah.
So in this case, you see from screen, I'm having the light on the left side of her, or below her, or above her, and you always can tell that it's now coming from screen space right, for example. At least that's what I think you can tell. And here you see it's coming from screen space left. And that's because I took out a depth map out of this and generated a normal map out of it. So
I guess the volume was working, and the only thing that was bugging me was the shadow of the arm.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also where I would say maybe this is the quality of the normal map. First of all, I could generate a image sequence out of it, but it would be too jittery because the AI doesn't keep the consistency, at least not with the tool. In this case, I used Comfy UI.
You mean for the depth map?
For the depth map, exactly.
In order to relight. Yeah.
Exactly. So it wouldn't keep the consistency.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, when I go closer into it, you see like these steps or stairs or something.
Yeah, got it.
And this is because maybe there is already a solution. Probably there is. I don't know about it. It's because of the bit depth of the image. It's not high enough.
Yeah, like how you call that?
Bendings.
That's the way.
In an image. So you don't have a smooth fall off or a smooth gradient.
Yeah.
But you have this bending, and this is because Comfy UI gives me 8-bit images. And for this purpose, 10-bit would be better.
Just to rewind a little bit, you ask Comfy UI to generate you a depth map of guessing out of the 2D image?
Yeah, exactly. Comfy UI is guessing out of a 2D image. It's guessing what it...
And how did you connect that to the scene? Did you had to... I'm really... not CG, so I'm asking really a noob question. Yes, just I'm wondering pragmatically, how do you connect it? Is it easy to use them together, or?
So at this point, Comfy UI is not directly connected to my 3D scene, but there are, for example, for Nuke, there are Comfy UI plugins, so you can use directly your Comfy UI output with Nuke as an implementation. I could also, for example, as an input for Comfy UI, I can use images, but I also can do a screen record, for example. So I could also record my viewport and use it for some ideas as an input for Comfy UI. Yeah, but in this case, I just keyed her out, like very traditionally with the keylight keyer. And then I used the keyed out imagery and gave it to Comfy UI, so it gives me a depth map out of it. But it's not consistent enough, and it's also, as you see, like there are these stairs, which I don't know how to get rid of at this point in a convenient way, where I would say, okay, this is cool. And because of those 2 points, I don't use it yet, for example, for lighting, because it's still
lacking a bit of definition and consistency, basically.
Exactly, and it's also working quite well still. Yeah, even if I don't have the lighting, I will find a way to implement her in this scene still quite well. On purpose, I already shot her without any highlights, so you can't directly trace where's the light coming from. This is, again, something where you think in a cinematic thought, that's not the best thing to do. But if I don't have a traceable light source where I know where the light is coming from, I am more free to move her all over the place later on. So
it's almost like a raw material that you can edit later on.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing, the plane is always facing the camera, and by that I can do quite a lot of camera movement actually, and still your eyes are fooled as if it's a 3D scene. I mean, you can't go like 360 degrees, then at some point it's weird, but you still can do a lot of camera movement. I can show you, for example, like
in a little bit of render.
So for example here, that's what I mean. Like the camera is static for real, but I moved it around, and just this flat plane where she is projected on is facing always the camera. And when she's also doing like a bit of turning around, it already fools you a lot. I mean, if you are looking exactly onto her feet and onto her shadow, you will see that it's just like a little trick. But I would say it's enough to convince the audience, and it's also like
it works.
Exactly, and it's not a Hollywood movie, but it's a learning TV show for kids, and I just want to have a very efficient way, and so I can produce also like a lot, because I'm aiming for generating like a 10-minute block in 2 weeks, like always in a 2-week rhythm, and therefore I have to have some quality reduction, because tracking every shot and doing the camera moves on set would way more planning ahead, first of all, and second of all, just the tracking work again is time of my life, which I don't want to spend there, because this is enough. Where, for example, AI. So the reason this TV is flying around, because as I said, it's like the AI TV. Here, the thing is, regarding this camera move I was talking about, when we have this camera move, and I keyed her out, but this handbag, it's like Hermione's magic handbag. You can have like a bed inside and like all kinds of things. So this handbag is a prop,
like a Harry Potter
approach,
that you get like a whole universe out of the tiny tent.
Kind
of approach.
And when I shot it, first of all, I actually didn't think that I want to do too much rotational work for some of these shots. So I thought I just want to do like a forward movement, and therefore it's okay when you shoot the stuff and everything is aligned right and left to it. It works. But as soon as I'm doing here this rotation, for example, the handbag tells us that this is not a 3D move, but the handbag
the cheat doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. Then the cheat doesn't work, because for her it works, but the handbag is too much. But there I went in and I keyed her around once again without the handbag, and I put in this 3D handbag instead, and I used the keyed out handbag you see here. So I used this keyed out handbag as an input for Comfy UI, and told it like, create me a 3D handbag out of it. And Comfy UI took it and created this one here out of it. And when you look at them side by side, right now the light source direction is not so
Affecting it, yeah.
good. But as I said, it's still work in progress. But when you look at it side by side, it's basically the same handbag. I could also like go into the material a bit more if it's necessary. But here I can do the camera move, and I actually have a 3D object I'm working with. And as I said, it's
gave life to the poof, like from a flat surface up. It's a real bag. It
exactly.
Almost feel like Mary Poppins.
Yeah, exactly. And regarding the handbag, you also have to say this is not the most easy to interpret for the AI, because it's like weird, and the AI really doesn't know what this is. But it's still tried, and I think it's enough for what I want to do. From this angle, again, it's not holding up anymore. But just for the slide camera move, you have this parallax of this handle over this one, and you see it reveals like this gap between, and then it's enough. And we don't focus too much on this handbag. And also, like, I will cheat a bit with the lighting later.
And the render, I guess, it's pretty instantaneous. Like
exactly. Yeah.
So basically, the time you explain that to me, it's like 10 times more longer than just doing it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
You were doing it like poof, 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 poof. And just explaining that is just taking, just to explain that how much you can be fast by having those ideas, getting in the flow. It's like, oh, that flat image doesn't work anymore. Let's just poof, use Comfy UI to do that. And I guess it relates to the beginning of the conversation when we mentioned that AI is basically just another tool that lets you create a movie. It's about the story. It's about the movie, right? It's not about the tool. The tool shouldn't take the spotlight. It's about us as human, right? And exactly what you're doing here, you're basically leveraging technology in a way that you can produce a show for a young audience, educate them, because I guess where I want to come with that is that you're not just someone playing with toys. Digital toys. You're also someone that have some meanings by what you're doing. And I think about that because we discussed also about the long form movie you have in mind. So I think that's also something that keeps you in a positive mindset, is that you always think about what you intend, what you want to do for the world, why you want to do a movie. And then, of course, I can use whatever tool I have available for this. But what drives you, what keeps you in the right direction is the idea of what you want and the reason why you want it. Because, that's my interpretation of your work.
Yeah, I think that's also my interpretation of my work. Yeah, exactly. And then coming back to the initial fear of AI, and also how the news around it developed, like for example with Sora, at some point you saw, okay, those results, first of all, I believe those results will be achievable in a year or two anyways. Yeah. But first of all, it was a bit of cheated by this Sora campaign to give us the thought of this is already the state in which it is at the moment. But still, it will get to that state, I'm sure. But in the end, it's, again, you could go and say, for example, I want to have a great explosion and make this house, and you give it a house, and I want you to make this house explode. But then it makes this house explode, but then you don't have the control about the camera move. When you want to have the control about the camera move, you could prompt it like pan to the right or dolly in front to it or something like that. But then it's, again, very rudimentary. So what would I do as a 3D artist? I mean, I'm not planning on using AI created imagery for my work at this moment because it's not controllable. I tried, but it's not that controllable, so I have always very consistent outcome. But what I could do is I would take, for example, a 3D camera move and make it exactly how I want it to be, and I would use a prop, so like the AI knows, okay, there is this explosion happening, for example, and then I would use this 3D camera move, and then the AI might give me something which holds up to my expectations, what I want to have. But then there are, again, other things coming into it. For example, the heat of the explosion. I don't feel it the way I wanted to feel it. So then the next thing is I might have to use a special node tree in my Comfy UI to control this heat. But then it's the heat. But then I want to have a shockwave. Then it gives me a shockwave, but it's not the shockwave I want to have. And so on. And then in the end, I put a lot of effort into generating maybe the image I want to have, but I don't think it needs me to have less experience than a 3D artist.
Yeah.
Because I have to be experienced in the tool to control it as somebody who is experienced in simulation, as somebody is experienced in camera movement, and so on. And then in the end, it's also what makes those artists is that they have like their artistic eye. May it be comp-wise, like this comp eye you talked about, or simulation-wise, to have like a feeling for heat, feeling for explosion, for scale. And all of this is something you want to have the control, and you can get something through the push of a button. You also can get with this Pokemon Go, for example, it's also like giving you AR Pokemon, so you can watch through your screen, jumping around Pokemons on your desk or something. But this is not the level of 3D imagery which is enough to create movies. And I'm pretty sure that this won't get to this point any soon, and we will use AI for enhance ourselves as artists. And then I see in this enhancement of ourselves as artists, I see the opportunity, for example, smaller 3D generalists are faster in their work, and this might generate higher impact on to the client. The client will be so satisfied that there will come more work. More work means that one person can't handle it itself, so he has to get other people.
That's a really good point, because I'm really trying to think, okay, where are we going to be in 5 years? And I don't know why, in my mind, there's going to be a bunch of really giant, big company and a way more smaller studio that we have today because of what you just described. Like what you're doing now, it's just one man, a couple company, right? And you're able to deliver a show for a TV station or maybe a streamer. I don't know if streaming content executive is watching this. And why not? But basically, it's really like what's behind the fear of AI can be how to tackle that fear is to get back to the granularity. So separate and dissociate the part so you can use it as a tool that like it was the case until now. Because I'm just thinking another example that illustrate that. They had like a DJI camera, which is a super cool camera. It's super cheap for what it is. Basically, it's like it looked like the chicken. Like you move the body, the head doesn't move. That kind of. It's really funny. And so she have a three ways or three angle. Basically, the camera is able to stabilize to a level which is almost the level of the Steadicam. But the camera, you can handle it, on the backpack, and you handle it this way. It's super cheap. And then you have that super famous DOP. I don't remember his name. Basically, he was using that camera for a test, and the first thing he did is actually put the camera in a way he can control it the way he was controlling the big camera. So it was, let's embrace the technology, but just let's make sure we can control it the way we know how to control things. So it's useful for us. And it feels to me that the way what you're doing currently with AI is exactly that. You're taking what's the evolution of the tool, but keeping control of that, because without it, it's not an art anymore. It's not a craft anymore. It's just random stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
And then on top of it, I think what's really I appreciate in your work is you thinking how to cut corner without losing quality. And that's really amazing. That's really cool. What's next for you? How do you want to present yourself for the company? Because obviously you have those projects that you're doing, and you're gonna provide as a pilot for whoever want to have good quality content in their streaming or TV show. But also, I think you're still interested to act as maybe not AI evangelist, but maybe someone that knows how to integrate that into a VFX pipeline for traditional VFX company, like you worked before for. Is it something you're still having an interest in?
Yeah, definitely. It would be cool to help out VFX studios to show them how, from a generalist point of view, the AI tools we have around right now might help the artists of a team to enhance their workflows, but also so companies could plan ahead. And because I'm really trying to stay ahead of the curve of like whatever happens next to it, I almost have like a alarm on my phone which gives me okay, the next tool is out, let's dive into it just to see what is it capable of. Because what I see right now is, at the moment, a lot of those tools, for example what I showed you with the depth map, this is already pretty good, and it will get better, it will be more consistent, and it will be more efficient, and the quality will also be better, of course. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, because I saw it also, a version of it in Resolve.
Yeah.
To separate, it's like an AI depth map. Yeah. It seems to be pretty good just for defocus and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's also, again, a use case, for example, to put you, for example, focus. Maybe this could be, for example, I remember there was a camera producer, it was called LiDAR. And they did depth cameras. It's 6 years ago. And
what was the name?
I think they called LiDAR. This was the camera also. They were called Lightro.
Yeah, Lightro, exactly. Yeah, it was like, whoa, that's amazing. It's like the beam of light kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
And never heard about it.
Yeah, exactly. they called it light camera. And it was a $500,000, $500,000 bazooka thing. And they said, like, look, we never have to pull focus ever again because we have the
all the data,
all the depth data and everything.
And you can look for everywhere you want, and
exactly.
You're almost like God.
Yeah, and nobody spoke about that. This will never be possible to put onto any like Steadicam, for example, to move it around.
poor guy.
Yeah.
Or woman.
Exactly. And we had this Lightro thing, but now we're getting AI generated depth imagery, which could get to that point which this Lightro thing announced to be capable of. But again, at this point in time, it's working, and it will work better and better and better. But it's good maybe for companies to know, first of all, what is possible today. And how do I know? I would say because I'm a 3D generalist who, when I see something, for example, when I see a depth map, I know what I can do with it.
Yes.
And on the other hand, there are a lot of AI evangelists, for example. They don't have the 3D background. So they see a depth map and they also play around and come to some conclusions, of course. But it's still that as a 3D artist, I see the possibilities maybe.
For production, basically, not just for playing out and showing fancy things that doesn't matter so much for production pipeline, right?
Of course. And also I don't have the insight of somebody who's like in the biddings, for example, but still it's that I have a sense of, through layout, I also know, okay, what is important for the shot? Where do we need the hero props? And where do we need the very fast generated stuff, which is totally exchangeable, for example, which also no artist loves to do. I mean, I don't want to get too close to anybody and harm his feelings or whatever, but I think everybody wants to be more of a creature modeler or a hero object modeler than a stone modeler who models stones
in the back.
far in the background. I mean, those are still like senior artists who are creating those stones, but just because somebody has to do it. But if we would take AI to create ourselves like a bunch of stones, then the senior modeler has more time where he could put effort into the stuff which he likes. But basically, where I could help out in big studios would be just showing them, hey, this, and this are the tools we have right now, we know right now. This is what we can do right now. This is what we can also apply to this specific project we are having right now.
Yeah.
Because this is also like the other thing, like it's always specific to the project where you can use it, where you can't. And and basically just help out enhancing the workflows with artists and AI, and also talking also to the artists how they can use the AI, taking the fear of AI, because the world is changing and a lot of stuff is happening there, but I don't think that it's the AI which will make us unemployed in the long run. Sometimes I won't say that this hasn't happened, because it has, but I think it's like an overreaction. It will get back, and I'm hoping and I'm really thinking that everybody who lost his job will get back soon.
Yeah, that's my hope too, that it's a transformation situation. We're actually transmuting the way we work. So there is a first phase of layoff. But I guess what's really more important than ever is curiosity and obviously creativity. But that was always the case for people in the creative industry. That's what they are here for. Yeah. But curiosity might disappear along the way. It's like, oh, I know my tool, I know my craft. And I really love the way you are coming with the mindset of just saying, hey, that's just another way for us to expand our toolbox.
Yeah.
And to make it even more efficient, even more at the service of our ideas and creativities. And because you're doing that by nature, I think you could be really valuable for any company that are wondering, how can I use those new fancy toys to make more money? Because as much as that's not the end goal for humanity, it's a good intermediate just to make money that allow us to generate stories the best way possible, and maybe make it even more accessible.
Yeah, of course, making more money, but also making the client happier. By making the client happier, getting more work from that client and other clients, more work. So this is what I hope and see in the long run. Like higher, happy clients lead to more work and lead to more artists getting back to work. That's actually also something. So
when I say money, it's really just to oversimplify, because at the end of it, for me, what you just described and demonstrate, I always refer to my son. And for me, it's like, why is it so complicated to make a movie? I just have that idea, and we can do this, and we can do that. And you can come, we're getting closer to that, to a kid having ideas and wanting to see that in front of him or her. And that's really cool. Like my son is playing a lot with GPT generating image, and it's coming to me with that image. It just generates, it's like, look, that's a truck that's going to do this and going to do that, and imagine one day someone will be able to generate a story with that, and then it's going to be so good at creating stories because you don't have to dive too much into the tool.
And also what I think might happen in the future, and is already happening now, is that, and this is like a beautiful thing actually, that we will see more small studios uprising, and small studios of, 20 people to 20 to 50 people, but they are getting already they are existing right now. I don't want to name them, but they are creating AAA content for Netflix, for example. And when you have those small studios, what's happening there is that the artists, I would love to work for such a small studio on AAA titles, because that means that I have way more creative freedom, and also...
You're not just a tiny peak of the pipeline, you're actually more involved into the creation of the content.
Exactly, where I really can say, hey, this shot you see there, just thinking of being part of such a studio would be I did, for example, the whole animations you see in there, and not just I did that animation and the other one was done by somebody else or something. So this is
like the initial, 20 years ago, I did not work that way, but all the guy that was here before me, they were saying, we were generating CG, we were doing our comp, we're doing everything basically, and it feels like we're coming back to that in a way. For those that are curious.
That's true. I read once was that the team who made the VFX for Fight Club, I think it consisted out of 5 people or something. Really few people, and considering what they did is quite impressive, but they can also be very proud of themselves.
The one with the bomb in the truck and the camera moving.
And there you see also, they just did what they did there was just do just enough work that the shot works. Like
to serve the story.
Exactly. So they did, for example, like the rooms were just like two planes stick together and then projected an image, for example, onto it. Like they did a lot of image projection, but it worked and it still holds up today, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. I saw it recently.
I hope that it has a positive message.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's why I want to provide with Mon Expansion. It's really the mental resilience and tools for artists to stay in the mindset you just demonstrate, because that's the best way. It is super easy to go down the road and just be like, I'm done, I have to change career. Why it could be the best time of your career, if you use it well. So I think mindset is really important, and that's what I want to provide with Mon Expansion. So
I mean, what I might add, when there is this fear of being exchanged by AI, and I have the luck that on the one hand I'm working with clients and also like with studios or like as a part of the production, but on the other hand I'm always on the lookout for creating everything by myself. And because I'm always in the lookout for creating everything by myself, I'm always looking for how can I be faster. And while I'm looking for how can I be faster, of course I'm looking onto AI, and I really want to be faster. But by looking onto AI, I see a lot of possibilities in the future, but not in the too close future. It will like still take its time, and I see possibilities in the future. I can get faster with my work, but I don't see any reason to give up everything I do as a 3D artist over to AI. For example, why should I let an AI create the image and in the end I don't have any control at all over it anymore? I can't change the textures, for example. When I have built up a scene, I can change everything like very precisely because I just go into the texture for this, or I give it more shininess. And this is every time I'm making a test render and then I'm working again and doing something else and doing again a test render. And it's always, for example, regarding roughness or how the material feels, it's always movements of 0.02 slight adjustments. And these slight adjustments, it's crazy to do those trying however with AI, and I don't see where AI will do those adjustments for us. AI will help us doing seamless textures or will help us doing procedural textures in some ways. But creating procedural textures, for example, now when you went into it, I don't know, I think, for example, when I want to have a brick wall, just like a brick wall with moss on it, since 2 or 3 years I don't go into textures.com anymore to get this, but I'm doing it procedurally because I have it seamless, it looks good for me, and I don't see why I would give up this control. I'm pretty fast to create a seamless brick texture, for example, from a brick wall, and the AI is by far not there at this point in time, especially when you talk about procedural reality, because the AI is limited to the image resolution and make it 8K, but still, when you have it procedural, it's like a vector graphics. You do an InDesign, for example. You can go as close as you want, and it's still sharp. And so you would need an AI who's creating, like this would be also like cooler than just image, would be AI which is creating me a 3D scene, or AI which is creating me a procedural material. And maybe at some point we are at this point. Probably, maybe someday we will have something like that. But at the moment, as it's just images, we are coming to a wall where we can say we can use it for, as I said, like creating grain of sand or some non-hero objects nobody cares about anyway, to give you, it would be the cherry on top of your scene. But in the end, most of it, and that's what I experience myself. I'm creating everything myself, and then in the end, I think this bag, let's make it 3D, but I don't bother too much about it. So AI make me this bag 3D, and then it's okay. But that's maybe something to add.
Yeah, definitely, and I can only relate to that. Though those micro or slight adjustments are the thing that making the difference. I just watched Dune 2 from Denis Villeneuve teams, let's say, because it's not one person, and I was expecting to be blown away, and I was, because of that exact thing. Those micro adjustments, the movie feel special, not because of the tools, but because of how the tool were used. It's if you look at it, it's a movie like every other movie, but the way it was organized, the way it was used, the way it was put together, it's just special. It's a piece of art, not because of the tool that was used, but how the tool was used. And I think that's always going to be the case. It's true for haute couture, for Jean-Paul Gaultier or whoever is doing something really beautiful. It's not about the needles, it's about how you use it. And of course, you're going to have shortcut and all that. But yeah, I think it's good to be reminded of that and not to be afraid of using new techniques. And I think also, we are in a creative industry anyway. So what do you expect? The tool will be creative.
Yeah.
The tool will evolve. Nobody told us it's going to be the same software ever.
Yeah, that's true. And also, maybe just to add something to that, I mean, this state of AI, we didn't have it at 2016, for example, 18. But at 2018, for example, the movie Into the Spider-Verse came out. And when it came out, it had a super unique style you've never seen or experienced
with
before.
The flipping imagery, really
exactly,
quick.
And using like techniques from like traditional 2D animation, like this smudging instead of motion blur. But they also used, for example, for depth of field, they didn't use depth of field, but they used when comics were printed back in the days. Sometimes you put the red, the blue, and the yellow on top of each other, and then you have the color. But when the press wasn't adjusted perfectly, you would see, for example, yellow outlines because it was like slightly offset. And they used this effect of a not perfectly adjusted press to give you the sense of depth of field, for example. And a lot of things like this movie did very revolutionary. And just imagine if we would have had AI creative image, and maybe let's just say we would have had it at a state Sora pretends to be, where you really say like, give me puppies in the snow, and you have perfect puppies in the snow. Then I don't see that this movie would have been possibly made by an AI, which is even 5 years from now, even better than Sora pretends. I don't see how something like this can be created because something like this never was created before. And the AI is, I don't want to say that the AI is just interpolating images and creating out of interpolation of the training data it has new images. I think there are scientists who say this is not the case. They say the AI is actually going further than that, but still just to a certain amount. And I don't think AI is possible by itself. But also, for example, the movie Into the Spider-Verse, they used with the help of AI, just at least that's what in the making ofs was said, that here and there, for example, to help the interpolate, for example, like a lot of it was hand-drawn, like these in the cheeks, these lines, for example, were hand-drawn. But between 2 or 3 frames, they had tools they specifically made for this to interpolate between 2 or 3 frames. That's at least what I understood. I don't want to put my hand on fire for that. But but again, why I'm saying this is because AI is presenting us what is already happening. And even without the AI, we had talked about this a bit. It is that movies are not what they used to be. Like, I love movies from the 90s way more. Like, just if you would say, hey, let's watch a movie. Do you want to watch a movie from the 90s or do you want to watch a movie from the 2010s? I know for sure that the movies from the 90s is way better. Even though, it can be like some, I don't know. It's just a feeling, in my opinion.
Well, a few exceptions, like Dune, I just watched, and
Spider-Verse.
the Revenant, which might blow my mind. Those kind of, or...
I just mean, it happens.
Most of it's definitely way more revenant type of movie in the 90s than today.
Yeah, with more storytelling, with more.
Yeah.
It
Light.
just.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Light was more important.
Yeah.
Cinematography, right?
That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's also something. I mean, we see it. Roger Deakins' work, for example. I mean, Dune by Denis Villeneuve, or also. I mean, all his movies are great. I don't know if you know Arrival, or have you seen Arrival?
Yeah, I saw them.
Yeah.
I watched it. I was in Montreal, so over there is the god of cinema.
Okay.
He's from Quebec,
So I don't want to hate on the movie makers nowadays. They still do great movies, but I think what still happens is a lot of things seem to me, at least, I don't know, the movies back then, it seems to me, had a distinctive style. Like every movie had its own style. Yeah. And right now, I mean, I'm not a camera enthusiast or something, but it's as if you watch a Netflix show, and maybe I'm completely wrong because I haven't read about that, but it seems that all of them were shot on some efficient RED camera, and it's not, I mean, it's just the distinctiveness of the style is somehow gone, and every show feels like the other one, like they
more
feel
similar.
all the same. And now AI comes, and when you just play around a bit of AI generated imagery, you see that somehow, I mean, you can copy some certain styles, but oftentimes you can tell by the style of how a portrait of a person who is AI generated is done, that it's AI generated, because they also have like no distinctive style by themselves, but they all look a bit the same. I can't point my
it's
finger
an average of it's an average of everything, right? And the average look average. It's back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's like the look is called average.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Put the look average there.
I mean, I can say make it more Ghibli style looking, make it Marvel looking, make it Quentin Tarantino-esque, but there's still something averagey which doesn't make it stand out. And I think now we are competing even more with like this flood of average looking stuff which is thrown out into the internet by people who are just prompting bullshit. Yeah. Because we are competing, we are again maybe also forced to get better as humans and make more creative decisions and create just another, maybe there is now an era of cool movies again, and not because AI is helping, but because we are competing with AI. Yeah.
With the averageness of stuff, we want to be distinctive again.
Yeah.
And it's related to the previous interview I did with Eloi, which was about finding your own voice. He's doing hypnosis and to the service of creative minds, and it was all about stop for a moment. Just think about what's your own voice, and then only then show that to the world. And don't jump on every tool or dopamine type of content that everybody's doing because it's fun, but really try to do your own thing. And I think you're a really good incarnation of that. So thanks you for being on this conversation with me. I think we're gonna have others in the future because you never stop growing and you're always gonna provide us a lot of insight of what's possible creating story. And we want to see your TV show and your upcoming movie at some point.
Yeah, and whoever watches, if he wants to buy the concept, he can contact me.
Here we go. All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Arne. Thank you a lot for your time and your good energy. It was a pleasure to discuss that with you, and hopefully it will inspire some people.
Cool. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.